Hello everyone, welcome back to the next video. In today's video I will show you how to use GraphQL with Spring Boot. So first you will have to go to start.spring.io, and I have created one screenshot as well. So you just go to start.spring.io, select Java as the language. For project I have selected Maven, but if you want you can select Gradle as well. Spring Boot I am using 3.2.4, but if there is some higher version you can use that, like it won't cause any breaking changes. Packaging jar Java 17, and in dependencies you will have to add Spring Web, Spring for GraphQL. I am using H2 database, which is kind of like an in-memory database, but if you want to use some other database you can use that as well. For this video we won't be doing anything with the database, so yeah. And here you will also need to add Spring Data JPA. Even JPA we will look into the next video. So this video is very basic, like how to get started with GraphQL, how to do queries. So queries in GraphQL is basically like doing GET request in REST APIs, like getting some data. Okay, there is some other thing called mutation as well. We won't be looking that in this video. That we will be checking out in future videos. So first, once you do that, just generate your project and open your project inside VS Code or IntelliJ, whatever you are using. Next, what I have done is that I have went to this resources folder over here, and inside that you might have a GraphQL folder already created. If not, you will have to create this GraphQL folder. Inside that, create a file called schemas.graphqls. Okay, and if you are using VS Code, you can use the you can add the GraphQL extension as well. Next, what you have to do, just ignore all this stuff. Okay, ignore all this stuff, you don't require this. Just write this type query and write here hello world string. So I'll just comment this out, okay, just for your simplicity's sake. So here I have defined a query called hello world which returns string. Okay, then just save it. Next, what you will have to do, you will have to create a folder called resolver inside your whatever is your application name, and inside that you can create a file called hello world resolver.java. You can name it whatever you like. Important thing is you will have to mark it as controller. So if you want you can copy all this imports as well. Don't copy this import, like I will show you in future, like in just in a bit, why I am using this. So just mark it as @controller, and again ignore all this stuff, just concentrate on this. So here you are making this method called hello world. Now this name should match with this name what you have given over here. Okay, and the return type is string. So again I am returning string, so I have created a method called hello world, return type is string, and I'm just returning some string hello world. And here I have marked it as query mapping because this is a query, right? So if you see, we have defined this as type query. Next, you will have to go to application.properties, and here suppose if this GraphQL folder is not created for you by default, then you will have to add this thing as well. Or in case, suppose if you are changing this name of this folder, please don't change it, but in case if you are changing it, then you will have to make sure that Spring knows what is your GraphQL folder. So yeah, by default it is configured, but in case if it is not, you will have to write this. So that's why I have commented this out. And also I have added this bit of code which is kind of like a graphical or GraphQL, however you pronounce it, is an interface. Just like you have Postman client for testing REST APIs, we have graphical in GraphQL. So just do this and then run your application from just clicking on this. Now once you run your application, you will see something like this. You will have to go to localhost:8080/GraphQL. Okay, don't worry about this question mark path equal to /GraphQL. Just go to localhost:8080/graphical, and here I'll just comment this thing out as well. Okay, next you will have to write something like query, whatever you want to give your query name. This doesn't matter, and then just add a opening and closing bracket, curly brace, and here you can just write something like this, hello world. Okay, and if I run this, okay, I don't know what happened. Okay, I think my app has stopped running. I'll just quickly run this. Okay, and if I click run, here you can see I'm seeing the same string which I was returning from my function. Okay, now that you understood this, rest everything would be pretty simple for you. So here what I have done is that I have created another method called greet, and it takes an input called name of string. Here this method did not take an input, okay, and this not method but a query, but this query called greet takes an input of name string and it returns string as well. Now this exclamation point which you see, it means that the input is necessary, like it is not optional. You have to provide the input as well as the output. Here in this case, even if you hadn't provided any return type, that would have been fine, but in this case, for this particular query, you have to provide the input, you have to provide the output as well. So if I go back to my hello world resolver.java, here you can see again I have created a method called greet, marked it as @query mapping, and for taking an input you will have to also mark it as @argument, and it takes a input, okay, you can name it whatever you want, and it returns a string as well. Okay, it takes a string, it returns a string, but while taking a string you will have to mark it as @argument. Okay, now if you try to run this as well, here you can see I have this. I'll just comment this out, and if I run this, okay, why I'm getting this error? Wait, let me just check. I'll just do this. Okay, maybe I commented it. I'll just refresh this once more. Sometimes if you make changes in your code, you will have to refresh this as well. Okay, I don't know why it is showing me an error. File field undefined. Okay, let me check my, okay, it is only showing hello world. Okay, I'll just stop this, I'll run this again. Okay, and I'll refresh it now. Okay, now here you can see this greet method was added, and if I try to run this, here you can see I am getting the output as hello hi, because I am providing the input as hi. Okay, next what I'll do is I'll just so this is for getting random numbers again. So query name is get random numbers, and the return type is, it does not take any input, but the return type is array, and the array should have some output, so the output is necessary, and if there is no output, it can provide an empty list as well, but the output is necessary. So if you see inside hello world resolver, again same thing, I'm marking it as @query mapping. The method name should be the same as that of the query name, and here I'm just returning a list of all the values. Okay, and the return type is list of integers. So I'll just save this. Okay, I'll stop this, I'll again run this. Okay, I'll refresh this once, I'll do this, and I'll uncomment this, I'll run this, and here you can see I'm able to see the list of all data. Next is some custom types. So if you see, I'm creating a query called get event, and the return type is event as well, and the return type is necessary, and here I have defined a type event. So here you can see I have defined one type event. It takes an ID, so this is a valid data type in GraphQL. Okay, and it takes a string, and again this ID and event type are mandatory. So now you will have to define this same type in Java as a Pojo object, as Pojo class as well. So here you can see I have defined it as my event. Okay, again if you want, you can name it as event as well, that's fine. The name does not matter, the input matters, like what it has an ID as well as event type, right? So I have named it as my event because there are already some other imports for event as well, and it might cause confusion for you. You might have import a wrong import, that's why I named it as my event, and it takes an ID which is a UUID and an event type, and then same constructor getter setters. And if you see hello world resolver.java, here you can see again I am using @query mapping, and the event method name is my event, and sorry, the method name is get event, and the return type is my event, and here you can see I'm just returning some my event. And if I just stop this, run this again, and if I just quickly refresh this, I'll just comment this out, I'll use get event over here, I'll run this, and here you can see I'm able to get the event with the ID as well as the event type. Now there is something called field resolver as well. So here you can see I have defined a query called get post. It takes post. Okay, now I have defined type of post and type of user as well. Now this type post id, title or description is fine, but it takes an author as well, which is a user. And if you see this type user, it takes id, name, which is fine, but it also takes an array of post. Okay, so be careful with this. Now what I have done basically is I have defined again pojo class for post, id, title, description. I have not defined author over here. Okay, so that's it. Getter, setters and constructors. Same for user, I have defined the id and name, constructor and getter, setters. That's it. Okay, I haven't defined list of post inside this pojo class. Next I have created another post resolver.java. If you want, you can write it inside hello world resolver.java as well, but just for simplicity's sake, to avoid confusion, I have created another class called post resolver, and it is annotated with @controller. And here you can see the method, the query name was get post. So I have defined a method called get post, marked it as @query mapping, and it returns a list of post, right? So in case you forgot, see, it returns a list, array of post or list of post, whatever you call it. And here I am returning a list of post as well, but this post also contains an author, right? So if you see over here, now this same author you will have to map it to your post as well. So to do that, whatever name you have defined over here, same name you will have to define the method name as well. If you define different, then it might cause issue. And then you will have to write @schema mapping type name of post. Okay, because this is post, right? And it takes a post as well, and it just returns the new user. And for user, if you see, it takes an array of post as well. So the same name post, I have defined it over here as well. Schema mapping type name of user. Okay, because this is user, and it takes a user, it returns the get post method. So I'm just calling again the same thing, but if you want, you can define new post as well if you want to. Okay, so yeah, here it is. Now if you want, you can run something like this. Okay, so wait, I'll just stop my server for now, just disconnect it. I'll run this. Okay, and here you can see, I'll just refresh this as well, and here you can see I'm using get post. I'm giving the id, title, description. If you want, you can pass the author. If you don't want, you can remove this author as well. So if I just run this, wait, I'll just comment this out, get event as well, otherwise you might get confused. So get post, you have the id, title, description, id, title, description. Now if I want the author, I can pass it like this as well. And if you see, inside author, I'm also passing the post as well as the title, so post title as well. But if I don't want that, I can just quickly remove this, and it won't give me the post title. So yeah, that's it. In future videos, we'll look into mutations, JPA, H2 database, all kinds of stuff, like how to resolve this n+1 problem in GraphQL. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye.